Hey there, heroes. This is Mr. B Reads again, of course. So we're getting into chapter 2 this time. But before we do that, I wanted to introduce one of the features that I'm going to be doing from now on, now that we've covered chapter 1, and that is to have comprehension questions. Now I know you're saying, Mr. B, we have enough school to do, and that may be true. I don't know if that's true, but that may be true. But this raises the stakes a little bit, keeps you guys on your toes. So we're gonna have every video is gonna start with 2 comprehension questions from the previous chapter, right? So it means you gotta be listening. And I say comprehension, come on, we're really just talking about memory here. So, and there's going to be 2 questions. One question is going to be an easier question, so that's going to be what we call beta simp question, and then we're going to have a more difficult question, and that is going to be the alpha Chad question. So for our first time, I'm going to make it easy. All right, so the first question, this is the beta simp question, is what's the name of Henry's uncle? That's it. That's all you gotta know. Pretty easy, right? Now here's the alpha Chad question. Which one of Henry's cousins says this line? If you don't want to talk about it, Henry, that's it. I'm not cutting it off, that's the way it actually reads. If you don't want to talk about it, Henry, ... So, told you it'd be harder. Those are the harder questions, but hopefully not too hard. And so here's the deal with these questions. First to comment, I will count as first to find, as in I will credit you with the first person to find the answer. So I'm going to comment first to find, or FTF, on your comment if you decide to participate and you find it and you put and you're the first to comment on this video. So what comes of that? Well, pride, having fun, but I'm also thinking about how I can make prizes. I'll have to think about that because I would like to do that. I think that would be cool. I think that would be fun. But yeah, so anyways, those are the comprehension questions for last chapter, and I'm actually going to go back to recap, right? Because we just started this story, we just met Henry and everything. So I'm going to start us off with a recap. So this is the last bit of chapter 1, okay? You've been to a lot of places then, Henrietta said. No, Henry said. They never take me with them. I've been to Disney World, but that was with a nanny. In California once. Anastasia leaned forward. Your parents really got kidnapped? She asked. Henry nodded. By guys with guns? Do you think they had masks? Your parents might be tied up in a cave somewhere right now. I don't know. Something like that, Henry said. They got kidnapped anyway. The 3 girls were impressed, and they sat, chewing on lips or nails, examining Henry and quietly contemplating the situation. After a moment, Frank's voice climbed loudly up the stairs. Scrub the bones, he yelled, and the attic echoed. What? Henry asked. The girls picked themselves up off the floor. Teeth, Henrietta said. "Brush your teeth." All right, that brings us into chapter 2. And here we go. Henry was having trouble falling asleep. Aunt Dottie had made up his bed while he was brushing his teeth, and Uncle Frank had shoved a swamp cooler from the basement into the round window at the end of the attic. Henry had never seen a swamp cooler before, but he assumed it was pretty much the same as the air conditioner that stuck out of the wall under hotel windows. Only this one was leaning a little dangerously to one side and was packed in place with old overalls. Henry's room contained his bed, on which he sprawled, a little stand that looked like it was meant to hold a fake fern, but now held a reading lamp, and a 3-drawer dresser. His doors were open. Henry wanted the full benefit of the swamp cooler. Henry's light was off. There was no reason to have it on. The only thing to look at in his little room was a poster on the ceiling, and he'd finished staring at it a long time ago. Uncle Frank said that it had been his when he was young. It was a picture of the University of Kansas basketball team. One of them, at least. And not a very good one, Henry thought. None of the guys looked athletic. Because of the moon, the attic was almost brighter without Henry's lamp. It hung low in the sky, and its light climbed in the window, sloshing silently around the floor and silvering the walls. Henry watched the silver light until his eyes began to water. He wasn't blinking. He was too awake to blink. He wondered if there was any chance that this summer he would get to play baseball. He would have to learn to throw first, and he'd have to make sure that no one saw him learning. Henry hoped his parents would be all right. He even hoped they would come back. But he also thought it would be nice if they came back at the end of the summer, right before he went back to school, or whenever the baseball season ended. Henry was thinking about baseball and his uncle's truck, as well as what exactly it was his aunt had smelled like when she hugged him, when something thumped against the wall above his head. He landed gently on his bed before he even realized that he had jumped up in surprise. He forced himself to breathe, still not blinking. "Some bird," he said loudly. He was not going to whisper. "Probably an owl or a bat or something." Henry tried to force his eyes shut, not noticing when they popped back open. Whatever had thumped outside of his wall was now scratching. Or he was imagining that it was scratching. He couldn't be sure. Yes, he could. It thumped again. Not as loudly, but a genuine thump. Henry sat up in bed and tried to breathe normally, picturing large bats scrambling on the house and rats trekking through the walls. No different from thousands of noises and thousands of nights, he told himself. Roll over, ignore it. Instead, he got out of bed and walked to the stairs. He would go to the bathroom. He would run water and flush a toilet. He would wash his mind with normal noise. Leaving behind the moonlit attic was like stepping into a hole, and the steep stairs squealed at him as he went. Someone had left the light on in the bathroom. A band of glow at the bottom of the door frosted the carpeted landing. When he reached the door, Henry put his hand out for the knob and froze. Someone was probably inside. No one would leave the light on and then shut the door. Henry hated knocking. He hated conversations through bathroom doors. So he dropped his hand and turned to go sit on the stairs and wait. He hadn't taken a step when the knob turned. Henry caught his breath, jumped toward the stairs, and sat down in the darkness. An old man stepped onto the landing. He was short and had a polished bald head with white hair straggling off the sides. Long tweed trousers were rolled up at his ankles, and a purple satin bathrobe hung down around a dirty white t-shirt. The bottom of the bathrobe piled on the floor around the bare man's feet. The man was daubing shaving cream off his neck with a hand towel. He sniffed loudly and brought the towel up to his face while he turned towards grandfather's bedroom door and the end of the landing. The purple robe dragged behind him like the train on a wedding dress. Before he touched the door, he looked back over his shoulder. His deep black eyes settled on Henry in the darkness. Henry blinked hard and then yawned, stretching his arms above his head. Someone had left the bathroom light on, but the door was open. Why was he sitting on the stairs? He wasn't sure, but he did need to use the bathroom. He did, and then hurried back up the stairs into his attic. Henry slid into his bed with his mind wandering aimlessly, looking for something it had lost. He knew he had forgotten something, but he didn't notice when one blink was too heavy to reopen. He was somewhere else, dreaming of a field where he knew how to throw a ball. And for some reason, a man in a purple robe was watching. The end. That is chapter 2. Pretty short, huh? Well, it's time to get excited for chapter 3 then. Alright, see you next time, heroes.